I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. We have a new type of episode today. Recently, I had the chance to do a live Why Not Now interview on stage at the Tech Co. and Consumer Technology Association event called Innovate and Celebrate in San Francisco. The conversation was so good that I wanted to share it here. I interviewed CJ Prober. He's the COO of GoPro. And not only is CJ a great guy, we immediately hit it off, but he has a fascinating story. As most of us know, the GoPro brand is beloved by their customers and fans. I am one of them. What many of us don't know is that after going public a couple of years ago, GoPro took a downward turn and they struggled on Wall Street to the point to where CJ himself said that they were in crisis mode. This January, CJ took on the COO role and he was tasked with turning the ship around. No pressure, right? Imagine that. CJ talks very honestly about this process, what caused the struggle for the company, and what they did to turn their numbers around. Prior to GoPro, CJ was an executive at Electronic Arts. And I also asked CJ what has been the most interesting use of GoPro he's ever witnessed. And that's pretty unique. You'll have to listen and hear about it from him. Before we get started, let me fill you in on something that's been a lifesaver. It's called Design Pickle. Get it? You're in a pickle because you need a design ASAP, but you don't have the time or maybe even the skill to do it yourself. With Design Pickle, you pay a flat rate monthly fee of $370, and you're given a dedicated designer for all of your needs. And the first 14 days are risk-free. You get a full refund if you cancel in the first 2 weeks. For me, the process has been painless and ego-free. In fact, the Why Not Now posts you're seeing on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else were created from my buddies at Design Pickle. I found I was spending so much time resizing images and trying to design things on my own. I didn't have the budget to hire a design firm or an agency, yet it was becoming too expensive for me to budget my own time. I'm now on a first-name basis with my designer. She's learned my style and we're in a groove. Why Not Now listeners get 30% off their first month. You can go to designpickle.com/why not now to redeem the offer. It's a great solution for entrepreneurs. A mentor once said to me, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Do what you're uniquely qualified to do. Design Pickle helps me do just that. So things are going well at GoPro right now, and you've had a couple of solid quarters, but it hasn't necessarily been that way in the last couple of years, right? So CJ, prior to becoming COO, was the SVP of Software and Services, and in January, he became COO. Now, the last couple of years have been challenging, right? Can you share a little bit about that and what caused that rough patch?
Yeah. Well, GoPro's had an incredible journey over the last 15 years, and Nick started GoPro in the forest out near Pescadero, and basically had 13 years of very profitable bootstrap growth. So an incredible success story. We went public. We reached kind of crazy valuations, and it was really attributed to the brand. Like, individuals wanted to be part of GoPro, so they were buying GoPro stock, and that led to some crazy valuations. But we had some missteps after going public. We decided to kind of change our business model in a way. So we went from a good, better, best camera lineup to good, better, best, and then a lot of other devices that were really geared to plugging price points and driving margin, and that really confused consumers. We went from a model where we used to take content like you saw, created that, shared it, and for the purpose of building excitement around the brand, excitement around our product, we decided to invest in a media business, which is very difficult to do when you're competing with the likes of Netflix and Amazon and Hulu in terms of developing original content, building a platform for that to host it, and then monetizing it. And so that was tough. We also pursued growth incredibly aggressively. So we went from like 850 people at the time of our IPO to about 1,850 in 18 months. Hired a lot of leadership, created some inefficient organizational structures. And then we really underestimated, I joined right before the public offering, we really underestimated the investment and the effort required to get to the software experience like we have with Quick Stories. And that took longer than the team would have expected, going into that IPO. But we have it now, so that's good. So we had to take some major action to address that. So we've simplified our product portfolio, and when you're in a hardware business, that requires a major shift, and working your way out of inventory that takes 12, 18 months. We've exited the media business, so we're back to developing content and promoting great content for the purpose of building the brand and growing kind of the passion around GoPro and our products. We in January or in late 2017 and in March of this year, we did 2 restructurings where we really reshaped the organization, flattened the organization. We actually exited about just under 50% of VPs and above. So we really addressed kind of how we were set up and kind of the top-heavy and siloed nature of the company where we found ourselves. And then we delivered on the software side of things. And that's what's interesting is GoPro, we never really lost momentum with consumers. So if you look at our metrics around social engagement and content shared, it hasn't had a blip through this difficult time. But financially, we were in crisis. We had to take some serious action, and we're now back to winning with investors as well. We had a great, as you said, we had a great Q2, grew 34%. We pre-announced Q3. We're going to be profitable this quarter. We're going to grow revenue based on the high end of our guidance. We said we're going to grow revenue 30% year over year. So we're back to the GoPro that Nick created before going public, which is a profitable and growing business.
So if you Google CJ Prober, you will get a headline that says, "Can this man save GoPro?" I mean, you were in some tough times. So January comes around, and the heat is on. Like that pressure, I'm sure you saw it. And whether or not that's an exaggeration, that's pretty intense, and takes a toll on a company and your culture, I imagine. How did you get your team to believe again? How did you turn that corner? Because psychologically, everybody was feeling that, of course.
Yeah, well, of course, it was a massive team effort. I had the benefit of being at Electronic Arts for 6 years, and the early part of those 6 years were some really difficult times, very similar to what GoPro had gone through. And so I'd been part of a leadership team that turned the company around. So I'd had the learnings from that experience, which was really helpful. But personally, it was, it's incredibly taxing because on the one hand, you're in an ambiguous, uncertain situation, and you need to lead from the front and be positive. And I obviously believe, but getting people to believe is hard, and you need to be really really strong and out front to do that. I talked about the VP departures that we executed on, and that doing that in a human way with transparency and making the right decisions is incredibly emotionally taxing, because you have to kind of remove yourself from personal relationships in the situation and just do what's right for the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that was probably the hardest part about it. But on the flip side, I can tell you, now that we're kind of on the other side of it, and we have lots of work to do going forward, but now that we're on the other side of those times, it's incredibly rewarding, because those people decisions that were made, you're watching people flourish in their new roles, and just seeing the results follow the execution is really, it's almost in a way better than kind of just having continued success where could be just momentum or market forces. This, we can actually see the impact that we're having on the business, and that's really, really great.
And quickly too. It's pretty incredible. So a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know I faced this when I had my company, I suffered from shiny object syndrome, I called it, where you've got your business model, your economic model is set, things are going well, and I would start to say, oh, well, what if we add this or this service or this product? And it sounds like a little bit of that just lack of focus or maybe taking our eye off the ball it's a universal thing. How can we prevent that from happening? Do you have any thoughts on tips or tricks that people can things they can ask themselves? Am I getting too far away from my core business?
Yeah.
Or it's so easy to do.
Yeah. Well, in the situation we found ourselves, we had definitely suffered a little bit from that. And just like some of the tactics which have been really paid dividends is we spent a lot of time debating as a leadership team what was the most important thing that we needed to do to turn the business around. And we wrote 4 things down, and we iterated on or 5 things I should say, and we iterated on those 5 things ad nauseum, but we did it quickly, and we published them, so we made them visible to the whole company. We had, for each of them, we had specific, they're kind of 1-sentence priorities as part of the turnaround for the year. For each of them, we had specific actions that were tied to those, and then how we were going to measure success. And we didn't put that in a drawer. We basically made it incredibly visible, both internally, so at every we call them family hangs, but at every kind of town hall or company meeting we would have, we would review our progress against those. On my earnings script is always structured against our 5 key priorities and how we're tracking against those. And we just became, laser focused on that. And when you have that level of clarity, it makes the no decisions much easier, because is it on the list or is it not? If it's not on the list, of course you debate things and things shift a little bit, but for the most part, we've been just laser focused on those 5 things.
Are you able to share one of them? One of
Sure.
the 5? Maybe the top one?
Yeah, the first one was return to profitability through better focus and execution.
That's a good first one.
Yeah, there was not a lot of debate over that one. When you're losing money and burning cash, that was mission number 1. So we're there, which is we've said we'll be there this quarter, so it's good news.
Amazing. So the most creative use of GoPro you've ever seen?
Oh boy. Well, one that this may not be the most creative, but it's super top of mind because I'm recovering from a cold, because for the launch, I was in Munich, and we hosted the European launch events in Munich, and it happened to be Oktoberfest. And so the amount of interesting GoPro content that came back with me is maybe a little too much. But one of our athletes is a bit of a fun guy, and his thing is you get these liter beers, and he'll drop a GoPro at the bottom of the beer, and chug the whole thing. And it creates an amazing video because you just see the beer drain.
Oh, wow.
And he's got, just for added comedy, he's got one tooth. So that's his gig. He's a Sam Pilgrim. He's a mountain biker. And so.
This needs to go in your sizzle reel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we left that part out. But.
Well, I was speaking with a friend of mine who is a former Navy SEAL. His name is Andy Stumpf, and he's also the world record holder for base jumping. So you know those wingsuits where people they look like squirrels? That's what he does. And so I was asking him about GoPro because he's, of course, a huge GoPro fan. And he said, really, it's revolutionized, this extreme sports world because now anyone can try things, and it's democratized kind of this space. How have you been able to cross that line between the extreme sport fan and consumer, and even the amateurs? Because now really anybody, I'm thinking I could do that and try, and really anybody could try. How do you grow your consumer base beyond that?
No, it's a great question.
Now you have the beer drinking. These examples help. This is helping. It's marketing.
We just have to sell GoPros at Oktoberfest, and we're done.
There you go.
It's a great question. So we've sold about 26 million GoPros life to date, and so we've already expanded beyond the extreme. But the question is how do we grow even further? And part of the soul searching that we did, after we ran into some challenges, was just around that. Like Nick set out to build the world's leading activity camera company, and we kind of checked that box. So what was next? And so our go forward vision is to really historically GoPro's viewed the camera and the phone as kind of separate. And we really view GoPro as an untethered lens to the phone, an extension of the smartphone. And the reason for that is it all comes back to kind of quick stories and ease of use. Because if you look at the historical complexity of even unboxing a GoPro and setting it up and all of the steps required to actually use the camera, that's challenging. And then historically, what do you do with the content? But by viewing GoPro as an untethered lens, and basically we've set the bar that the content you capture with the GoPro should be as accessible and as easy to share as if you captured it with the phone. And so by building on quick stories in the experience that we just launched, the vision is that we can free people to celebrate the moment that they're in. Because with your phone, you go on your phone and you're pulling that out and you put it in front of you, and if you've got kids or if you're doing something, it's a bit of a jarring you're not really in the moment, you're kind of distracted. And so GoPro today, from a capture perspective, frees you to some extent, but we've also got a vision for products that really deliver on that promise of freeing you from the capture experience, and then as an untethered lens to your phone, it's a seamless experience to share. So that's how we're thinking about things. And as we see the engagement around quick stories and the impact that's having on our consumers and their ability to share, I think we're definitely on the right track there.
Interesting. So you are a COO. What is your personal operating system?
Oh my gosh.
We can talk it through too.
No, this is, I get bugged about this all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because I can imagine.
Yeah.
And having spoken with you now backstage, very analytical mind.
Yeah.
Your day, I can imagine your time management is like.
No, I carry around 3 notepads and the cards that you have, those two. And I'm like a consummate kind of note taker, list maker, and I refresh that kind of daily and set my goals for what I want to get done for the day.
You have 3. Why do you have 3?
So I have one that's kind of the top priorities, so I never forget what those are. And it varies actually from 2 to 3, and sometimes it piles up. I've got one
5.
that's just for note taking, And then I've got one that's like my priority things that I need to get done. So there's like the priority stuff, and then like what do I actually have to achieve over the course of the next week or couple weeks. And then I've got my daily, what do I want to get done for the day? So I walk into meetings with the team and I've got like either my notepads and then either the cards or the sticky notes, and they just like, I take some heat for it.
But it's working, right? So
Well,
I imagine people want to know the formula.
Yeah, I don't know if
But I can imagine the heat you're getting to. So do you journal personally?
I don't.
No?
No, I don't.
And so you have kind of your different forms of lists.
Yes.
And from a time management standpoint, is there anything that you found really helps getting your day as optimized as possible?
Yeah, one thing that's had a big impact on me is I used to be a night owl, and then there was a period at EA where 90% of my team was in Europe, so I was getting up at 4 a.m. and completely shifted, and that stuck with me. And so I'm super passionate about being active. So I usually get up in the morning really early and do some work, get some exercise, and then get into the office at a reasonable time. And I'm really diligent about just time management during the day and what things I invest in and what I don't invest in. But the morning thing has had a real impact. I find it's like the most productive time of the day for me. And so I'm always encouraging people. Now my kids and my wife haven't quite followed, so that creates a challenge sometimes.
Are you giving them their own notebooks? Saying, here are your 3.
Yeah, here's your notebooks. I just sometimes I fall asleep during family movies and stuff like that, but they're understanding. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with CJ. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poo-Pourri. Yep, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poo-Pourri have literally taken the smell out of you-know-what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopourri.com, and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code WHYNOTNOW. That's all one word. Also, you can now get Poo-Pourri at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Changing gears for a moment.
Yeah.
So I have a podcast called Why Not Now? And I bring on all types of people, walks of life onto the show and ask them, can you tell me about a time when you had to make a big decision and you went from idea to execution? And we dissect that hour, that day, that minute. So can you tell me about a time when you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Yeah, so I think I feel like I've had a series of those moments kind of leading up to just my current being here in California and whatnot. So I guess the context is I grew up in a town called Winnipeg in Canada. Is any Canadians here? Yeah. In Winnipeg? Oh, sorry. So I was, in high school, I was kind of in the 10th grade flunking out. I pulled it together enough to get into college, which University of Manitoba, Pulse, and it's gotten, the standards are much higher now, but at the time it was like Pulse and a D average, and you're good. And then I actually ended up really getting it together and did okay, and started interviewing for jobs in Winnipeg. And I interviewed with a trucking company and a financial services company and a clothing company and got some interesting offers. And I just couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger on any of them. And I decided to go be a bartender.
So, all right, there we go. So that decision,
ties back to Oktoberfest.
There we go.
No.
You just had this vision of what was going to come. So when you decided not to go that path, that everybody probably was encouraging you. That's the right thing to do. Do this, do this. And you said, nope, I'm going to bartend.
I was initially unemployed, and then I ended up having to bartend.
Were you just not feeling?
I just didn't have passion for those things. And I couldn't, as much as I knew I needed to build a career and do something, I did not have passion for the opportunities that were there. And I'd visited California on a number of different occasions. And at the time I made that decision, I said, I am moving to California. And it turned out that it took some time to actually make that happen because, as a Canadian, you just can't move to California. It doesn't work that way.
Right,
Visas and things like that. It's getting harder. But but everything I did from that moment on was kind of focused on getting me down to California. And then,
what was it about California? Did something happen when you were visiting? Oktoberfest.
You're living in South Dakota now. You shouldn't have to answer that question. It's the weather.
I did live in San Diego. It is amazing.
No, just the weather
Okay.
and the opportunities and the area and the things there are to do, and it was just so alluring that I couldn't. I was kind of like, that's where I'm going.
So you were on a mission.
On a mission.
And you made it here.
I did.
Obviously.
As a lawyer, by the way, to start.
That's right.
That's how I started
Attorney.
my career. Yeah.
Have you noticed anything about these big decisions that are common themes? And I'll give you time to think about it, because after interviewing 100 or so people, I've definitely noticed, and I call CJ a renegade, right?
Oh,
These renegades that I speak with, everyone from Mark Cuban to Tony Robbins to Ariana Huffington, they tend to have similar triggers and similar things that they do when they're making a really big decision, going from dream to doing or idea to execution. And is there anything popping into mind?
Well, first, thanks for putting me in the category of those people. Appreciate that.
Wow, look at what you're doing.
I think for me, the two things that pop out as you ask is I'm definitely passionate driven. That's why I worked in video games. That's why I work at GoPro. I have passion for both of those products. I need to touch and feel what I'm doing. And then I'm super, on the one hand, I'm super analytical, but a lot of when a big decision comes up, I'll write out the options, I'll write out the pros and cons, I'll really think it through. But at the end of the day, I know what I want to do. So I just, if it doesn't actually line up that way, I kind of make the decision. Like when I made the decision to leave law, it really didn't pencil out at all. And that was evident to, my family, but it was just like I need to do this, and so made the decision to do it.
That's a really interesting point, especially given that you're a very step-by-step oriented operations type person. Because I recently interviewed Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, and he had been given this advice when you're making big decisions to write out your pros and cons, just like everybody says, but then crumple it up, throw it away, and see how you feel. And that's kind of what it sounds like. You're willing to go through the process because you need to check those boxes. But then that helps you arrive at your intuition, maybe a little quicker. It
helps drive your intuition, I think. So it doesn't matter what the words are on the page. You're just when you think through it, you get that gut, visceral feeling of, what's right.
Interesting. So in January, let's go back there for just a moment. I mentioned, the pressure, and I can only imagine. Here you are, everybody's looking at you saying, okay, what are you going to do? And you also have the Wall Street narrative going because you're a publicly traded company. How do you keep your mind healthy during all of that? Yeah,
for me, it's really, if I'm not active in some way, like physically active, whether it's surfing or kite surfing or mountain biking or road biking or hiking, I don't function very well. So even through the most difficult times, I make sure that I've got, I allocate time to doing that. So I don't know if that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That was a huge, that's super important to me, and it kind of always has been, that I make time for that. And it just keeps me kind of mentally fit in the game. And And also, I mean, the other thing is just perspective. Like, it's always good to have perspective on things. And if you look at what's happening in the world, and, we're talking about, at GoPro, turning around the business, and it's of course important, and people rely on the company, but there's so many other things to worry about. I think perspective is really good. And so I always try to reflect back on, take some perspective on the situation.
Yeah, well, and it's as busy as you must be, especially during these, this really intense time, knowing that it is a strategic decision to go mountain biking is actually interesting way to look at it, because most people, you tend to say, I don't have time for that. And just another hour or two working on XYZ is going to help us when the balance, as much as that word gets a bad rap, it's a strategic decision.
Yeah, well, at GoPro, it also helps that, it's kind of the brand and the company is enabling of that. And I don't take advantage of it much, but every Thursday, the broader company has a 1 to 3 Live It, Eat It, Love It, where the intention is that people go and pursue their passions as long as they're using our product and bringing feedback back to the product teams and things like that.
What do you call it?
Live It, Eat It, Love It.
Live It, Eat It, Love It.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thursday 1 to 3. And so when I'm doing I'm always with the product, and it's so it's actually a nice way for me to, in addition to building the mental health, it's a nice way for me to get exposure to the products and bring feedback to the teams, and so that's
cool.
GoPro's definitely enabling maybe more than other companies at those type of activities.
Yeah.
Recruiting pitch.
You guys are pretty fun culture, I imagine. So we just have a couple more minutes. I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. What are you reading right now?
So I'm actually reading a nonfiction book called Red Notice. It's super interesting. It's about an American, I think he's American, who set up one of the first hedge funds in Russia back in the early days of Putin, and all of the political and personal ramifications that flowed from that. And his name's Bill Bauer, I think, or Bill Bowder, and he's quite active actually in some of the political dialogue that's happening today. But it's it reads like fiction, but it's a nonfiction book.
Oh, wow.
So it's an incredible read if you're into that.
Interesting, especially right now. Absolutely. Pirates or ninjas? Who's tougher?
Ninjas.
Ninjas?
Oh, for sure.
Do you want to back that up with any kind of rationale? Or
Nope. Just get.
That's awesome. I have asked
throwing
that question.
stars.
Just what was that?
Oh, think about throwing stars and nunchucks and the sword. Pirates only have the sword.
It's true. Wow, you're not even trying to debate. You were so confident when you said ninjas, and you were done. He's like, mic drop. I'm so secure in this answer.
It's true.
And usually people just want to start telling me why. But okay, ninjas. Have you ever had a ninja wear a GoPro?
That's a good idea. But I don't think so.
What keeps you up at night?
I think it's from a GoPro perspective, it's striking the balance between focus and making the right number of long-term bets, because we're kind of in a situation where we think we're early to this opportunity of this mega trend of social media and people capturing content and sharing content. Like if you think about YouTube and Instagram, and YouTube's only been around for 10 years or so. Instagram, they've really only seen a ton of growth over the last few years, and there's WeChat in Asia, and everybody's capturing content and sharing content and passionate about that. And we've got this brand and these capture devices, and now this software that aligns with that. And it's kind of how do you not get too over your skis in kind of investing, but actually strike the right balance and and we're always going to innovate, but how much innovation and how many new products? I would say that's probably one of my big worries is how much to invest in the new now that we've got kind of the foundational business back.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And if you were to go back to January and give yourself some advice, what would that be?
Yeah. So I think can I maybe split that up in two? Because one is, I think in companies that are really well situated and profitable and growing, not getting in the situation we're in is kind of the best offense, not
preventative.
Preventative defense. So making sure that you're really thoughtful about how fast you're growing and the investments you're making and how adjacent kind of new opportunities are and things like that. But if you find yourself in that situation, I think the big learnings for me are, one, you've got to be super focused. So I talked about the priorities. It's like crisis management. What are we doing? Get everybody aligned, make the difficult decisions, and like drive to those things. Like it was an absolute necessity that we get to profitability. And so we were laser focused on that. Second is once you establish that and kind of build the path to kind of building the foundational business back, it's all about the vision in the long term, because if you've gotten into this situation, maybe there's something in that needs to be refined. So we spent a lot of time re-articulating our vision and our mission and our 2025, kind of what success looked like, and then what were our strategies that are going to get us there, and how does that translate into 2018 priorities. And the company and the employees and the team are so hungry for that, because you've just been through this kind of really difficult situation, and setting the long-term goalposts and where you're trying to go was critical, and getting that right is really important. I think we did a really good job in kind of doing that, and something that we're rolling out. We're in the process of rolling out. We rolled out part of it a month and a half ago. And then I would say team health becomes like so important, because you've done some layoffs that results in attrition. And so for us, when you're cost cutting and inadvertently or even intentionally, sometimes you pull away some of the stuff that employees care most about. And so a big focus for ours has been around team health. So just like way over communicating, being super transparent and real with the team, and bringing the fun back. So just like, why did people join GoPro? It's really because it's the culture we have and the people and the fun we have as a team. And so there's been a really big focus on that. So I would say those are the three main bits of advice
you would give?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Good insights. CJ, thank you so much for being here with us today. I learned a great deal.
I've been thinking about what happens when we don't act on our why not now ideas, and we just let them brew over time. Well, Susie Batiste, my good friend and founder of Poopery, is back to share a few thoughts on this front. I had to share this with you because I found it so helpful. Here's Susie.
Completions are about freeing up energy, and completions are and this will tie back to you very strongly in your messaging, but completions are, even when I say I'll call you back, or let's get together and have dinner, right? Or let's meet up. And if we don't actually have that date set and on the books, it's an incompletion. So that is literally an energy drain, right? Because you get all these, think about how many times we say that. So your energy is just like out there, and it's not like, back in and focused. So what I realized just now, when you said, why not now? What you're doing is helping people free up their energy, because there's a big misalignment. Because what happens is when people say, like, I want to do that. Like, I always wanted to, I don't know, be an astronaut, right? And they haven't done it, and they haven't done it, they haven't done it. That is a huge incompletion, because that desire is there, and it's literally in their consciousness, and it is literally draining energy from you. So when you actually complete these things, and when you do make the jump, the reason people are energized is because they get their life source energy back.
That's such a unique way to look at the concept of why not now? If we let an idea sit and don't act upon it, and it keeps coming back to us, then actually it can become a liability because it's draining our energy and it's taking up space in our mind. So when an idea keeps surfacing and it's unfulfilled, then over time, this builds and it can have a negative effect. So this is even more reason to take action, or at least explore your why not now further. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your why not now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins, and of course a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time, and until then, why not now?